Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Digital Arts Show. I'm Jim Sirianni, your host, and this show is part of the Digital Arts Festival that has been created and produced by Center Stage Theater of Santa Barbara, right here in Santa Barbara, good old downtown Santa Barbara, California. The Digital Arts Festival, all the shows, stream every night at 7 p.m. now through April 30th. And you can find out more on the Center Stage website, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab in the upper right-hand corner, or if this is your right, depending on how you're looking. But yeah, the Center Stage website, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab to learn all about the Digital Arts Festival. The purpose of the Digital Arts Festival is to create an outlet for artists of all kinds to share their work. Because of the quarantine, many artists and performers suddenly found themselves with no way to perform or to show their work. And in some cases, the work that some of these artists are doing may not be seen by the public, at least not in a public venue of any kind. So in an effort to find some sort of workaround for that, we created, or Center Stage, I should say, created the Digital Arts Festival to help artists and performers connect with their audiences in a virtual way. So we will have dance, theater, music, film, visual arts, poetry, storytelling, and much more. And again, you can learn all about it on the Center Stage website, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab. Today's guest is Karyn Laver. She is with the Dance Network, and whether you are looking to take some fun dance classes for the first time or are interested in training on a professional track, the Dance Network can help you achieve your dance and fitness goals. Their mission is to provide a comprehensive, enriching, customized, and fun dance experience for all who come to their studio. They work towards uniting the dance community and creating a family and home where all can feel welcome. And speaking of feeling welcome, welcome to the show, Karyn Laver. It's so good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm really excited to be doing this.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So right off the bat, let me ask you, tell us a little bit about your background and the path that brought you to opening Dance Network.
Yeah, so I started because I wanted to be able to tap like Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor in Singing in the Rain. That was the big inspiration for me. And so that's what I started with, and that's what my continued passion and the thing that I'm most excited about is tap. And so growing up, I was at a very family-oriented studio, dancing with multiple generations of people, some within the same family. One of our dancers, her mother was the assistant director, and her grandmother also danced with the studio. So the family connection was very, very real there. When I moved to Santa Barbara to go to school, I noticed I was having a really difficult time finding that. And I also, at 19, 20 years old, felt old as a dancer, which was the first time that's ever been a concept, had ever been a concept to me. So after trying to dance and teach at a number of different places and realizing that tap really wasn't very valued in the community or very present, period, I realized that if I was going to make what I felt a studio should feel like come true, I had to make it happen on my own. So that's what created the Dance Network.
Nice, nice. And as you mentioned, yeah, your background, you have a background in tap, and that's a huge passion for you. And tap in particular is a dance form that, as you just mentioned, is not as common today, but it is great to see it being kept alive and taught to the next generation, which is wonderful. How did you become so passionate about this particular dance style as opposed to others?
That's there's a lot of facets to that. So first off, watching the tap dancing was so exciting for me because it was also musical in a way that other dance that I was exposed to really never was. I firmly believe as a dancer and choreographer, I mean, I've trained in jazz, ballet, contemporary, hip hop, I've done some Irish dancing. I've done some ballroom dancing. I've done some Afro-Brazilian. I've dabbled in a lot of different things, but really dance should be the embodiment of music in my opinion, and I know that some people feel differently about that, but as a tapper, you become more than just a dancer. You also become a musician. You have an obligation and a relationship to the music that's so vastly different than any other style. And so for me, I started playing music at the same time I started dancing. I played the trumpet for 8 years, and I really feel that having that deep understanding of knowing how to read music, being a musician, but also being a dancer, being a percussionist with my body and my feet, really created a relationship to dance and music that I have not found in any other style personally.
Nice. Earlier you mentioned Gene Kelly. I'm assuming you've seen Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, that's the reason why it all started. That was the seed that planted it.
Nice, nice. By the way, as you're watching this interview today, if you'd like to learn more about Karyn and the Dance Network, all of their websites and such are well, first of all, the website is thedancenetworksb.com. Again, that's thedancenetworksb.com. And funnily enough, Facebook is the Dance Network SB. Again, on Facebook, the Dance Network SB. And then on Instagram, just a little different, at the Dance Network _SB. And you can learn all about the Dance Network and Karyn and what they're doing over there on their social media and their websites. And again, website is thedancenetworksb.com. So Karyn, you offer classes and performances with Dance Network. Tell us about the studio itself.
The studio is really about trying to give everyone a comprehensive dance experience, no matter what your age is. I've had everyone from a 2-year-old who's never danced before to a 30-year-old who's essentially a pre-professional to an 86-year-old who has done some ballroom but never taken tap before in their life and really wanted to try it. And by comprehensive, we really mean, tap is our thing. It's our stick. People who know us know that that's what we love, but we also do provide well-rounded training for all levels and all ages. So we do have ballet, we do have contemporary, we do have jazz, hip hop, breakdancing, ballroom, social dance. And really when we mean all levels, all ages, that is truly how we have it functioning. That's truly how we provide our offerings, again, for an adult who's never even stepped into a studio or taken a dance class in their life, to a 2-year-old, 10-year-old who really is excited to take ballet for the first time, to, again, people in their teens, 20s, and 30s who are on pre-professional, professional tracks, who are really driving to continue their dance education and strive for that next level. But the beauty of having all of those age groups and all of those levels within the same environment is that everyone is consistently inspiring and encouraging each other. And that's something that is so incredibly important that you just can't find when you have students who are turning 18 and then having to go somewhere else to continue their education because they don't have a place in your studio. Or if you have an all-adult company where you're constantly having to find new students and can't cultivate your own.
Right.
It's such a powerful connection to see, not just the adults and the children interacting, but also grandmothers dancing alongside their grandchildren. Husbands and wives dancing together, sisters dancing with their parents. Like, that's just something that I hadn't found anywhere else. And to be able to provide that opportunity for students is so incredible. And it really makes my heart sing to see those connections and those interactions able to happen.
That's really cool. That's kind of a unique thing. And as you mentioned, you have grandparents with grandchildren, husbands and wives, couples, and as from what I understand, and as you are explaining, one of the fun things about your studio is having participants of all ages, and many of the dance studios in town seem to focus on either youth or adults, but you blend them. So what inspired you to take this approach?
That's the approach that my studio growing up had. We had everybody in our studio from the little teeny tinies to our older adult group back home was called the Menopausal Maniacs, and they would perform.
That's
They would
hilarious.
compete,
I
and they
love
were
that.
wonderful. And some of them were doing really, really basic stuff, and they didn't have a lot of experience, and some of them had been dancing their whole lives. But for the kids to see, I can be 50, 60, 70 and still dance,
Sure.
is really, really important, because I think some people believe once you get past like 18, 19, there's nothing for you anymore. And that's just really not the truth. And I mean, the best professionals are the ones that have matured in the art form. They're not the ones who are 16 years old. Sure, the 16-year-olds can put their leg behind their head and like flip backwards and do all the crazy stuff, but they don't have that understanding of life and music and movement that older professionals and even older adults, as they continue their training, do. And so I really want our students to understand that there's no time limit or age limit for dancing. You can dance and should dance for your whole life.
Nice. That's very cool. That's great that that you offer that with your studio. And again, if you'd like to learn more about the Dance Network, their website is thedancenetworksb.com. Again, that's thedancenetworksb.com. And you can also find them on Facebook, the Dance Network SB on Facebook as well. Karyn, tell us a little bit about your creative process. What is that like, and how has it changed as you have moved from being a performer to being an instructor? How's that path been for you?
So the interesting piece about that, so I've actually been teaching almost as long as I've been dancing. I was a late bloomer. I didn't start dancing until I was almost 11 years old, which for some people, they're like, that's not very old. But for a lot of dancers who have made this their lives, that's about 5 or 6 or 7 years after when they started. But the piece of that I think for me was really important is because I knew it's what I wanted. And I was so hungry to dance when I got into the studio that my mom was trying to sit there telling me, no, we're watching the rehearsal. You can't join in the dance. They're performing at the end of the month. We'll start you in the new year. Like it was something I knew in my bones that I wanted to do. And so I pushed so hard in those first few years to learn everything I could, and was assisting with classes and demoing classes within the first few years of starting, and then teaching my own class by the time I was about 15 and a half, 16 years old. So within 5 or 6 years of dancing, I was already teaching my own classes.
Oh,
Because
wow.
Yeah, because I think my director saw that spark in me and really helped me cultivate that piece of choreographing and instructing. But when you're young and you don't have a lot of experience doing those things, you have a very different mindset. So when I used to choreograph when I was a lot younger, I would listen to the music and write down all my notes and write down all my counts and go in and be like, this is what it is. And 99% of the time, that's not what it ended up being, because sometimes in your brain things work one way and then you put them on bodies and all of a sudden it's not what you thought it was going to end up being in your head.
Right. Well, and
So
isn't that true though for artists of all types? Whether it's dance or theater. Myself, I've directed plays, and I've gone through that same process. It's like what you have in your head and what you put down on paper ends up on stage. You go, oh, this is so not what I had planned. So I
yeah,
think everybody in a creative process goes through that probably.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so but after a while, once you've done that a few times, you start to learn to be more flexible, as opposed to going in
Right.
and being like, this is my hard vision, this is what's going to happen. And so that's really changed the way that I approach it, because I've also a number of times had a performance start with 6 dancers and then one person ends up not being able to do it. And so I'm restructuring a piece for 6 dancers down to 5 dancers. Or I have at the beginning of the season, 8 dancers in a class, and then all of a sudden 2 more pop in and they just don't have as much experience, but you can't exclude them because it's important to give them those opportunities as well. So you have to figure out, how do I create now this 8-person dance into a 10-person dance that's now mixed level? And so
right.
Having that flexibility now and going in, I like to tell my students, I go into my choreography with an idea and a framework. So I don't come in and completely am like just winging it on the spot.
Right.
But I come in with an idea of, okay, this is what's happening musically here. They're hitting more of the high notes, so we need to make sure we're laying off of the heels because heels have a bassier sound. Unless I'm trying to do counter rhythm, which that's, deciding when to emphasize what's happening rhythmically by complementing it versus what's happening rhythmically by doing a counter rhythm to that makes the piece that much more interesting. And so you have to kind of think about how, what is going to make the most sense here? What is going to make the music pop the most? How are we going to complement what's already happening with the phrasing and the instruments being used, or the tonalities that are being chosen? So those are the things that I choose to focus on when creating a piece, as opposed to, again, coming in with my page of notes with everything written out and all of the counts written out. I really try to make it more of a fluid process that focuses on the musicality as opposed to the actual steps that are happening.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great how your process works, and I think a lot of dancers and other artists would really appreciate how you go through that. That's amazing. Let me ask you then also, how has the COVID-19 crisis impacted you as an artist and the studio?
Oh, so yeah, it's been hard. We've seen a significant drop in our enrollment just because we tend to serve lower income families already. And we've been trying to create opportunities for scholarships and to include as many people as possible. But when we had to move everything online and, lots of businesses started closing, we really saw a significant shift in the number of people in classes and who could or couldn't make it work. And so, some of our families aren't taking our online classes because they just don't really know how to make the online stuff work.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but the families who are able to continue and who we have been able to work with still are so incredibly grateful, and having that gratitude and that appreciation coming into every class has made, for me at least, as I have multiple instructors, so I'm not the only one teaching classes, but it's made my classes so much more fulfilling because the students who are coming are the students who really, really want to be there, who feel the same way about dance that I do, that they just can't live without it, that it's not an option. It's just as essential as brushing your teeth and taking a shower. If you're not dancing, you're not living. And so that for me has influenced my creative process as well by making me more inspired. Now I have to take out a lot of things. Like, most of my dancers are tapping within like 4x4 square foot spaces, little teeny dance floors. So we're not doing a whole lot of, big traveling patterns, right, and lots of turning and things like that. But it's making me have to think more about, how do I challenge them rhythmically? How can I make this step more interesting and more complicated without needing to shift it into this whole, fluid, dynamic, moving about space piece? How do I make it more about the rhythm and more about the roots than about the staging and, the whole idea of processing it for a theater as opposed to for like a little tiny,
For small space, or
little tiny practice space.
Right. Um, what are some of the challenges then with trying to teach? I'm assuming you're teaching virtually, like through Zoom or some other video conferencing. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're using Zoom. Hmm.
And so, what are well, you mentioned like the small spaces, but what are some of the other challenges you face trying to teach when you don't have the person there in person to help them with their steps or what have you?
Yeah, so the challenges for me are I'm now trying to teach facing them, which means I'm mirroring them. So I'm teaching them on their right side, but I'm doing my left side. And I've had some experience with that teaching in elementary schools, because when you don't have a mirror and you face away from the students, you can't see anything that's happening. So you have no way of understanding if they're getting it or not, and you know, a lot of times if students of any age or any experience level are learning new steps, it's really hard for them to be able to do it without you doing it with them, at least for a period of time. So yeah, facing them has been interesting, and being like, this is, you know, this is actually my left hand, but saying, okay, everyone, right side, ready, 5, 6, 7, 8, and
Yeah.
you know, and then sometimes my students, like in class yesterday, actually, one of my students was like, okay, but can you do that facing towards the mirror so we can see not what it looks like with you mirrored to us, but what it actually looks like? And I had to try to, on the spot, be like, okay, well, I was starting it on my left foot. Now I got to start it on my right foot. Let's figure out what that looks like.
So you get kind of
And
confused, like my right hand, my left, my right.
yeah,
Which one's which?
yes. And fortunately, my students are very gracious with me about that. If I make a flub, they'll be like, it's okay. We all make mistakes.
Oh,
So I appreciate that they are, yeah, willing to be open to the fact that I'm not always going to get it right the first time, especially when trying to transpose it on the spot. Um, and
now,
then the other, oh, sorry,
wh-
what was that?
oh, so I was going to ask you when you're teaching then,
Uh-huh.
because it's virtual, can you stop for a second and watch what they're doing and see if they're doing like the footwork correctly, or is that possible to do, or what
Yeah.
is that like?
Yeah, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll teach a phrase and I'll be standing up, and usually you'll only see my lower half because it's too, I have to stand so far away from the camera for the full body shot, and really the most important piece for them is the feet when I'm teaching. Again, for tap, it's a little bit different if I had to teach hip hop or jazz or ballet, but for tap, I can kind of just have them focus on my feet for the footwork. And then since I'm facing them most of the time, I can kind of catch little things, but I'll also, you know, I've been doing way more squats now that I've been teaching this way than I was before, because I'll squat down and I'll be like, hey, everyone, any questions? How'd it go? And, you know, we'll address questions. And then when I feel like they've started to get in the groove, then I'll say, okay, you guys, I want to watch you do it. And then I'll count them in, and then I'll watch them do it. The funky thing about counting them in is because of the delay, I have
Oh,
to count consistently, 1, 2, 3, 4, but they usually, for my counting, aren't on until like 2 or 3 because of the delay. So I have to keep
oh, right.
counting as if they were on, as if they looked like they were on the same counts as me, but just know that they're going to be off by a count or two, because if I try to match them, then it's going to throw them off, because then they're not yet. So that's the
Wow.
thing
So
I had to get used to.
there's a lot to, to trying to teach virtually. Well, I commend you for being able to do at least as much as you're able to, you know, considering the quarantine and all that. But
Thank you.
it's great that you're able to do what you are able to do with, you know, considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
But we have to go. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time. But before we go, I just wanted to give everyone your information one more time, and so everyone knows how to find you. To learn more about the Dance Network, you can go to their website, thedancenetworksb.com. Again, that's thedancenetworksb.com. And on Facebook, they are the Dance Network SB. Again, on Facebook, the Dance Network SB. And Instagram, it's at the Dance Network _ SB. Again, on Instagram at the Dance Network _ SB, and you can find them on both those social media and the website. And to learn more about Center Stage, you can find them on their website, centerstagetheater.org. Again, that's centerstagetheater.org. And click on the blog tab to learn all about everything that's going on with the Digital Arts Festival. Again, that's centerstagetheater.org. And if you want to learn more about me, I'm available on social media as well, Facebook and Instagram at Jim on the Air, and on Twitter at Jim on the Radio. Thank you so much to everybody for watching, and thank you to Center Stage for producing these interviews. We're so grateful that they are able to do this. And Karyn, it was lovely meeting you today virtually, and good luck
Yes.
with the Dance Network and with all your work.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was great talking to you today. I hope you stay healthy.
You too. Stay healthy, stay safe, and lovely meeting you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.